Okay, so we'll go through the first one, the very basic one, the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. And I call it basic, not as an insult. Of course, it's revolutionary, but I feel like a lot of people forget this one. It starts with the science fair. So everybody's getting excited. I don't know how everybody's a genius but Timmy in this world. Like, literally, Sanjay and Timmy's bully all have inventions. Like, it's as if they're up to par with Jimmy Neutron, and Timmy is just dumb. AJ has these clones, which are kind of cool. It's funny because AJ is literally a scientist, and so is Jimmy, so it's surprising how little they interact throughout the trilogy, but we'll move on from that. So Timmy's wish in this episode that kind of gets the action started is this poofer.
Keep your auto poofer with you! Once we leave, just push the little star and you'll automatically be poofed back to your room!
His first goal, to impress everyone at the science fair with the greatest invention of all time. So he keeps trying to poof to the nearest lab. When he realizes all the science labs that exist are ones that he already knows and kind of aren't that impressive, he realizes it's time to travel to a new dimension. Spoiler alert, it's Jimmy Neutron's.
Hey, why is everything so bulgy? Who cares?
So we jump in the middle of Jimmy Neutron's inventions. We don't really get an intro. He's kind of already doing something. He's trying to upgrade Goddard kind of like an iPhone. And Timmy Turner appears right in the lab, which is invasion of privacy, breaking and entering. And he just rummages through Jimmy's stuff as if they are his own. And I can't believe it, but Jimmy is literally there. Like, he could have poofed here without Jimmy here and gotten away with a lot more, but Jimmy is literally just in the background. Can you imagine robbing a bank, but everybody's still there? Oh, I guess that's called a holdup. Never mind. Jimmy calls him Beaver Boy, which is super funny because obviously the animation being pointed out is the perfect part. Because Jimmy Bulgy is kind of weird looking. Like, he's thin, and they're trying to make him match the Jimmy Neutron setup, which does not work for him at all. His mouth goes right down to his shirt. The design wouldn't bother me so much if it wasn't for the eyelids. I feel like the eyelids are so prominent on Timmy in this, and in his show, he doesn't even have eyelids. Like, they are non-existent, so I don't really know why that's an issue. Timmy's so stupid, he accidentally gets sucked into Jimmy's hypercube long enough for Jimmy not to recognize Timmy's poofer as his own invention, which is a really good start.
Oh yeah? Well, ha! Sure's you're right. Hey, wait a minute. This isn't my mini laser.
He gets poofed off into another dimension, and Timmy comes back as if he won the battle, which is super ridiculous. Then we have the infamous opening credit sequence. This is genius. Like, I wonder if they did this last or first in their production, but it's so cute watching them in their native animation, fighting each other back and forth, and the simplicity of it just being two radios fighting one another, and then having them see one another is really impactful. Like, I love how true it is to their original shows. So Timmy is essentially causing chaos in Jimmy's lab. He does the thing that switches up his hair, which is super funny, and turns his desk into cheese, which I don't know how long that's gonna take to recover. He notices that Goddard is doing his tune-up, and it's only at 5%, and since Timmy is pretty impatient, he tries to speed it up.
It's a good thing I always carry a copy of Decimator, Crush the Planet, that I conveniently started carrying yesterday.
He meets Carl and Sheen, who think he transformed himself and it was part of some new invention he had, which is fair. Timmy's annoyed, but they love his new attitude because they just like it when they get to do things that are crazy with his inventions, which is different than Chester and AJ because they don't know about Timmy's magic, so they can't really be involved or have an active role in it, which is interesting because it kind of separates them. Like, Timmy can't really get close to human people outside of his fairly godparents because he has this secret that he can't really relate to other people on. Carl keeps referring to Jimmy as big-headed Jimmy and this one as small-headed Jimmy just to kind of make things clear for them. And it's so funny because obviously these guys relate more than Jimmy could relate to them, which is kind of sad when you think about it. Like, Jimmy's friends are finding a better friend in another character that he's never gonna see again? I don't know. They end up using all these inventions that Jimmy had in the most irresponsible way you can imagine.
Wow! This new Jimmy puts the mental and experimental!
And these specials are really good at bringing back some of the old inventions from Jimmy Neutron. Like, I can't remember if there's a lot of Timmy Turner influence over here, but I do like seeing the Jimmy Neutron ones. We'll see more later as we get through the specials. After causing non-stop destruction with Jimmy's inventions, Judy finally comes out to meet him, and she thinks it's Jimmy. So he has to use the hypno beam to kind of convince her that she is a superhero. And Hugh is not smart enough to need to be hypnotized, so so he joins Judy as a superhero. Then Timmy meets Cindy and Libby, which is a really fun interaction because Cindy is kind of smitten with him.
Want to help me with my science project?
You're asking for a girl's help? You actually value my opinion?
Sorta.
It's pretty early, you could tell that Cindy kind of likes his personality, which is already a healthier connection than her and Jimmy, who have really established a relationship at this point in the series. Like, this is midway through season 2 this takes place. The only thing that's happened between them is the love potion episode, so it's really interesting to see a reason that Cindy would be into somebody else, giving them like kind of a mainstay problem to have even after the series goes on. But Timmy is pretty convinced that she only likes him because he's quote-unquote smart, which it's very obvious that you're not. But whatever, she believes it, and Carl and Sheen try to like make it make sense, but they get pretty frustrated because Timmy leaves with Cindy, which is kind of rude, but Timmy's attention span does make sense for this situation. Meanwhile, things start to go a little bit chaotic as Goddard's upgrade was kind of messed with, and he's become kind of riddled with power. With Jimmy not being there to stop it, it starts creating chaos in the town, starting with Judy and Hugh. But we don't get to see enough of it before we get thrown back into Timmy's world with Jimmy in it. Yeah, this is gonna get really confusing.
My dip! It's gone!
So Jimmy, for the first time, ends up in Timmy Turner's house, a really basic room compared to his. Like, they don't even have posters on the wall. And Cosmo and Wanda poof back, only to realize that, of course, this isn't Timmy, but it does kind of look like him. Like, they have blue eyes, they have brown hair. Obviously, they're more concerned than Carl and Sheen would be because this means that they have a secret to uphold. Since Jimmy is so skeptical by nature and thinks he's the smartest person in the world, it's almost like they don't even need to keep the secret because he's just convinced that they're not real anyway.
Holograms, of course!
Hey, hands off the wife!
He also doesn't have to hide the secret with the dad or Vicky because they both think that he's just trying to get out of school as a guy named Buzz Adams, which I would also think that this character was named Buzz Adams if I saw him out of context. It's so funny watching Jimmy and Vicky interact. Like, I wish I could see him as his usual CGI self reacting to this because he's not usually put in dangerous situations by the people around him in his world. Like, usually it's external forces that he creates, but Timmy literally has like the worst life ever. I think we should have emphasized that a little bit more, that Timmy isn't just a spoiled kid, that a lot of the stuff he has to do is a response to the fact that he lives in an abusive household with a terrible babysitter and only has 2 people that actually care about him. But that kind of puts the shows into different genres, so we don't really talk about that in this moment.
You'll never stop in time at the velocity we're going.
Stopping? That's funny.
Timmy's classroom is set up in a way that's very similar to Jimmy Neutron, where like if they did a 2D episode of Jimmy Neutron, I think it would look pretty similar. They react to Jimmy in the almost same exact way that Timmy's parents did, except for Mr. Crocker, who knows something is up, because Timmy isn't smart. As the only one who suspects it, he goes right to his lab. He has this monitor that tells him the difference between Jimmy and Timmy, and it only says normal and huge, which is so funny.
There's only one logical explanation for Turner's head becoming that large. Very good, parents!
This is the real conflict on the 2D end. It's only during this rewatch that I'm realizing how little happens in the 2D side of things, because just as Jimmy figures out how to get to Retroville again, Crocker breaks into his house and uses the poofer / invention to get him to the fairy world. Jimmy doesn't realize the impact of this, but as the audience, we definitely think this is an issue. Like, we've never seen Crocker get to the fairy world. Another thing that really amplifies this special is that they take elements of the original shows and evolve them so much further, as opposed to a normal crossover that would just kind of be like a side plot. This one really attaches itself to the lore of both shows, has them interact, and has them change all the situations from the show forward. So Timmy and Cindy are on a date because I guess Timmy is less emotionally repressed than Jimmy is, and their friends get really jealous because they're not spending time with him anymore. Meanwhile, the action kind of jumps into play when Libby realizes that Goddard is gone berserk in Retroville. He is destroying things, and all because of Timmy, which they keep thinking is Jimmy still. Cindy expects him to solve everything because he's a genius, and she's seen it in Jimmy before, so why couldn't Timmy be this smart? And you're about to find out, Cindy.
I think Cindy actually likes me.
Yeah!
As Goddard keeps destroying things in town, Timmy keeps trying to date Cindy and doesn't really care about the destruction that's going on, probably because it's not his town and he doesn't really have to worry about the consequences, which has happened a lot to Timmy in the past. He finds himself having to keep the secret that he's not super smart to Cindy as he dodges his responsibilities.
You'd still like me me even if I weren't smart, wouldn't you?
Of course not.
It's only when Goddard straightforward attacks them at their picnic that Timmy realizes that they have to do something about it. It's only now that Timmy realizes his poofer is just a regular pen because Jimmy has it. It's so funny that he doesn't question where Jimmy is the entire special until it comes to this moment. But yeah, since he doesn't have access to Cosmo and Wanda, he's in true danger. And not only is he pretending to be a genius so nobody's willing to help him, he has to figure it out like completely on his own. The inside of Goddard is really cool because it's obviously not a super new place because it has to do with Goddard, but it's still like in the realm of the show, so it's cool. Cindy helps him via Jimmy's lab, which he's definitely gonna get mad about later, and pretty much has to help him moment by moment in getting out and stopping Goddard's reign. His friends are literally just watching the whole time. They don't do much. Timmy eventually does disarm Goddard. He's about to have a brain blast, but it doesn't work the same way Jimmy's does, which is super funny, especially since it's in their animation. Like, I remember being a kid thinking this was the funniest moment ever.
Gotta think! I'm bored again.
We think the majority of the plot has been wrapped up until we realize the weight of the Jimmy situation. He is not only stuck in Timmy's dimension, but he's in Fairy World. That's when we get the final section of the special where we have to save Fairy World. So Crocker is pretty much taken over, even getting to the big wand, which is the power source for everybody's magic. Jimmy is kind of like a bystander and doesn't really care what's going on because he thinks it's all a computer simulation, which is like, you've been in computer simulations before, like you've seen that this stuff has some consequences. I don't know why he's so adverse to it. Timmy has to convince him to do it. And then we get a really nice side of Timmy where we see how emotionally intelligent he is. And that's the difference between him and Jimmy. Like, Jimmy would push off his emotions so often because he's a genius, but Timmy actually would kind of lean into them. Therefore, he's kind of smarter in that sense.
All of this is a big computer game. Why do you care so much about them? Goddard?
Of course! Goddard! He's computerized, isn't he? Well, Cosmo and Wanda are as real to me as Goddard is to you!
Of course, Timmy relates to Jimmy through Goddard and his fairies because they both seem like they're not real, but they actually are very real. He gives him this whole speech on why he needs to help the fairies, and Jimmy does it. It's so funny because Jimmy actually gets to have a brain blast in the 2D world, so we actually see this thing carried out, and it looks so interesting in 2D. Like, of course, Timmy would never even have this. Jimmy gets to do what he does best, takes all the science fair inventions from the convention that was about to happen, and creates this giant arm mecha suit, which kind of reminds me of the pants thing he made in season 1. It's a really fun action sequence where we have Cosmo and Wanda involved and working together with Jimmy, which feels kind of cathartic.
I'm not Jimmy Turner. Technically, he's not even Jimmy Neutron.
Pay no attention to the fairies operating the fudge head suit.
But as they finally take down Crocker with the big wand, Jimmy gets to use magic, and it's really interesting compared to what we're used to seeing him in. He's super furious to find out that Cindy and Timmy are in his lab before he's about to come back. And the special kind of ends with them meeting for the first time as their fake selves, and then their original selves.
Jimmy Neutron, boy genius.
Timmy Turner! Boy!
With Cindy reaching out of the portal in her time, and we get to see a little glimpse of Dimmsdale on Timmy. And it's kind of sweet. Like, we definitely feel like the characters have grown since this moment, and it kind of takes friendship to a whole new level, especially with all their character flaws being at the forefront of the issues they go through. Overall, a really good start, and I could see why this is people's favorite, but we do have to give time to the next two. So we jump right into the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 2. This one also revolving around a theme. They really lean into it in this second one, which I really respect. I feel like the third one doesn't lean into the tone of it as much as this one. This one's whole central plot has to do with good luck and bad luck, having a Friday the 13th dance on both sides. There's definitely a better balance immediately with each of the characters, because instead of having to introduce them to the individual worlds for the first time, we actually get to see them in their natural habitat, like one after the other.
Why is this stuff a different color than the others?
Oh, that one was broken, so I fixed it using one of Jimmy's old lightning rods.
When we're not wasting time on these intros, it feels a lot more natural in the flow. Jimmy Neutron is in its third season in this world, which means Jimmy and Cindy are kind of close in this moment. Cindy actually expects Jimmy to ask her to the dance. Unfortunately, Professor Calamitous comes along and Jimmy is distracted once again. He doesn't have a lot of interest in Cindy and takes every opportunity to dodge their relationship. If you want to see more about this relationship, check out my third season retrospective coming up. And then we jump into the Timmy side of things, where Dimmsdale is also having a Friday the 13th dance. But it looks like nobody's there because it's just Timmy setting it up. Crocker's kind of rude to him, which is really funny considering he was like the main plot of the last episode. And I wonder at first who the antagonist is going to be in this special, until I remember it's exactly what happens with the good and bad luck trope, the anti-fairies.
Spilled salt? Oh, that is very bad luck.
Now, why are they more interesting than Crocker? I mean, Crocker is the central villain of the actual show, but I feel like incorporating the fairies to the next level is an extension of what they did in the first special, where Jimmy already couldn't believe that these computer viruses were taking over, and now this is gonna add so much more stakes, probably having him be so adverse to it. But let's keep watching. With Timmy not knowing who to ask to the dance, he decides to go to Retroville when he remembers Jimmy Neutron, and it's a really sweet throwback.
No girl in the universe would date me. Wait a minute. Girl in this universe.
He's so smart. You're so funny. I'll never forget you, Timmy Turner.
While the first one I would say was primarily taken over in Retroville, this one does feel a little bit more Timmy Turner than Jimmy Neutron. Jordan Bond Strangle tries to keep the anti-fairies locked away. Jordan actually changes one of the rules. Anti-fairies can be seen on Earth. That way, they can't really get away with the stuff they usually do. We cut back to Jimmy, who is confronting Professor Calamitous, and Dr. Moist, for some reason, is involved. He defeats him pretty easily with the celebration of Carl and Sheen, and I like that this is clearly going to be about the secondary characters, like Jorgen and the Anti-Fairies. Meanwhile, Timmy has Professor Calamitous, as opposed to the first one where it was just really about Goddard. Timmy poofs into Retroville, and we get to see them both as CGI, which hasn't happened yet. I love how they find new ways to break new grounds in all these specials. Like, you think everything's being done for the first time, and then every special has something even crazier. That's why we really gotta visit these next two.
Small-headed Jimmy!
Guys, his name's Timmy.
Small-headed Timmy!
So Jimmy tries to be nice, but he's secretly very envious of Timmy, especially since he's coming here to ask out Cindy. And I don't know why he's so mad, because he had the opportunity to ask out Cindy and he just didn't. He's definitely threatened by Timmy, which adds a really fun dynamic to them. And Carl and Sheen actually side with Timmy, it feels like, because they think that he's actually trying to do something he wants to do. Timmy gets to Cindy's house and we get to see Cosmo and Wanda in CG for the first time. That's cool. And since Jimmy and Timmy are so directly involved in this, we actually see them going back and forth as opposed to two separate plots that coincide later. They start fighting over Cindy, and of course Cindy is too into this to get involved.
Cindy, are you really gonna let those two guys fight over you?
I thought I might.
Girl, you are my hero.
Jimmy has to cover up the fact he keeps making wishes with the fact that he's a genius and acts like every time he goes behind a tree he's inventing something, which is just downright ridiculous. But it is really cool when he ends up making a rocket that is the equivalent of Jimmy's, but different colors. I do wish they picked different colors though. Green and purple are pretty ugly. Professor Calamitous sees that Timmy is super angry at Jimmy and is like, oh, I should recruit this guy or work with this guy. And Jimmy notices that he has his computer programs with him, Cosmo and Wanda. He doesn't have a lot of affinity toward them, which is kind of depressing because it's like, are you heartless, Jimmy? And after their fight literally ends up in catastrophe, Cindy ridicules Jimmy for pushing Timmy to the limit, which is kind of fair.
Neutron, you boob! You almost got Timmy killed!
Cindy, Timmy's not a genius.
Oh, please! You're just jealous because he's way smarter than you!
It's funny because Jimmy is so focused on trying to prove Timmy wrong, like having to do with his ego, that he wants to go to Dimmsdale. He makes an entire invention that allows them to go into the 2D universe. And horrible timing, Professor Calamitous tries to break into his lab and notices this machine is just on in Jimmy's backyard. Real smart, Jimmy. Seeing all the Jimmy Neutron characters in the 2D setting is so disorienting, but Sheen is the only one that I'm like really uncomfortable with. It just looks like he doesn't have a nose.
Look at me! I'm totally black!
Carl's kind of funny though. He looks like a comic strip. And Cindy is the weirdest of them all. I feel like she's become a lot more ditzy in this universe. Maybe because we're not talking about sciencey stuff. She's focused on getting Timmy to show her his lab. And then we get that trope where the guy pretends to be somebody he's not to impress the girl. And it happened in the first special. I don't know how they did it again. He takes her to AJ's lab, which is kind of obvious. And she's basically like, okay, I'm ready for you to ask me to the dance. Meanwhile, Professor Calamitous makes his way into this universe, which is such a cool idea. I love that the villains are the ones making their way into the separate world.
There must be something in Neutron's infinite storage cube that can help me find that big-toothed boy's flying helpers.
I wish the anti-fairies got into Retroville somehow, because spoiler alert, they don't, but you know, it's still kind of a cool concept. Timmy's dad recognizes Jimmy as Buzz Adams again and just tries to get him to do a bunch of chores, which delays him from finding Timmy and Cindy, which is so funny. And he's just trying to find the perfect moment to ask her to the dance, but it's even harder because Carl Sheen and Libby are there to hang out with Timmy. Timmy wishes for Cosmo and Wanda to be gifted to Carl Sheen and Libby, which I can't foresee anything wrong going on there.
Because that wish always works great.
The kids just wish for a bunch of unnecessary things, and it's actually really funny to see these characters in such an outlandish style. After Jimmy is finally able to stop doing all the chores, he finds his hypercube with a to-do list on it. Oh my gosh. And it's Professor Calamitus's. That is such a funny way of trying to figure out that he's in this universe. He literally left the most powerful invention with a note on it. Like, come on, Professor. Professor Calamitus causes so much chaos in town because he doesn't really know how it works that it all influences a bunch of bad luck. So black cats get out, and this attracts Anti-Cosmo. With Anti-Cosmo meeting Professor Calamitus, it gets even more wacky, with him using him to break out all the anti-fairies, which is surprisingly a lot easier than Jorgen made it set out to be. You can even see there's a lawn gnome in one of these cages with them. It's so funny.
This the emergency release button?
You bet!
After Calamitus does this, Anti-Cosmo betrays him and locks him away. Fair enough. And just before Timmy's about to ask Cindy to the dance, the anti-fairies flood the Earth, and he is freaking out.
Tomorrow will never come, making every day Friday the 13th!
I guess Jimmy and Timmy both know this is an issue, because it's not always apparent that they need to be worried right away, and Jimmy is somebody who doesn't really know anything about the anti-fairies, but just sees this black hole in the sky coming down. I think you're right to be cautious. Meanwhile, at the prison, Jorgen is using Calamitus to get out of the cage that they're both trapped in now. These are two funny characters, like Jordan Von Strangle to be like the king of the fairies, the one who is protecting all of them and sets all the rules. He's kind of a good guy, but has an aggressive way of going about it. And then Calamitus, this antagonist with shrill intentions of hurting Jimmy Neutron, being stuck in the same cage is just so interesting. The anti-fairies end up circling the world so hard that it becomes Friday the 13th forever. So it's kind of up to Jimmy to figure it out. Even Timmy in his own universe doesn't really know what to do. So they look for Cosmo and Wanda to try to get their help, but they're still granting wishes for Carl, Sheen, and Libby. But now they're all like kind of aggravated because their wishes took it too far, which is funny because that's like a normal episode of Timmy Turner. And as Cosmo and Wanda are about to poof the anti-fairies away, it turns out it doesn't work. Surprise, surprise, that's never happened on that show before. Apparently they're interfering with their wands, which is kind of like Bluetooth, I guess, so they're kind of trapped. Timmy tells Jimmy that he's gonna take him to his lab, which is really Crocker's lab, and when he tries to like embarrass him in front of Cindy, like with the giant obvious posters that point to it not being his lab, he has some excuse for all of it.
Does that explain that picture of you with a dart in it? And that sign that says, I hate Timmy?
I have low self-esteem?
They get a butterfly net, perfect for Timmy to explain that this is the only way to really capture fairies, and Jimmy is down. Suddenly bad luck is going off all around town, and Sheen, Carl, and Libby are trying to provoke even more to attract the fairies to come around.
I'm running under 100 ladders!
That way they can use the butterfly net to capture every last one of them, which it eventually does work. He captures Anti-Cosmo and all the anti-fairies, with Cindy being super impressed with Timmy. Oh my god, Jimmy's mad. It's so funny because Cindy just like wants the chaos to happen, because Jimmy and Timmy like high five, they get along right after they defeat the anti-fairies, and just when we think it's about to be over, they start fighting over Cindy again, and who is gonna ask her to the dance. And this is kind of like the first special where they resolve the first villain pretty early on, and then there's still like 15 minutes left and another villain comes into play. And this one is actually the most interesting. I feel like Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 2 is definitely one of the strongest specials just because of this plot line alone. Jordan is about to save Timmy's world when Timmy accidentally uses the gene splicer to combine Jorgen and Calamitus. Such an ugly combination of people, and it literally is just Jorgen with Calamitus's head. But Calamitus is so smart that his brain kind of controls the body more than Jorgen, which is definitely a problem.
Why are you hitting yourself?
He uses Jorgen's magic to go back to Retroville. And yeah, we have one more boss fight. So everybody heads back to Retroville where we see Jorgen, and seeing Jorgen Bulgy is really fun. Like, he looks so funny. He kind of reminds me a lot more of the Crimson Chin in this scenario. And while Calamitous looks normal, he is just so disorienting. They even capture Cindy, who is stuck in this bubble, as Calamitous tries to create this giant Big Bang bomb and destroy Retroville. So Jimmy and Timmy have to work together once again, and everything is at stake. They poof back into Retroville, where Jorgen and Calamitous are having a big ego battle, as well as battling with their bodies.
You said you don't harm girls!
Quite right. Jorgen, turn her into a goldfish.
Sorry, blonde girl. The merger made him the boss of my body. I'm so ashamed.
Timmy thinks he could fix the bomb, but ends up making it about to explode quicker. The distractions go even further when Timmy realizes that Jorgen cannot withstand seeing somebody break the rules. So they have all their friends purposely seem like they're breaking the magic rules for Jorgen to freak out, and it essentially makes him so angry he gets overpowered.
No! You cannot use magic to win a competition!
Sheen and Cosmo have a really funny musical number where they're dancing around, and Sheen is a fairy, which didn't need to happen, but I'm so happy it did. They disarm the bomb, and they're finally able to unsplice Calamitous and Jorgen. It looks really violent the way that Jorgen goes about hitting Calamitous, like aggressively violent. Look at this.
I can explain.
We end with the final question, Libby asking, who are you taking to the dance? With everybody curious what she's gonna say. Before she answers, Jorgen says he has a solution for both of them, which it's just funny that he thinks he needs to be involved in this at all. And then they have an interdimensional Friday the 13th dance, which is kind of a really cool concept, where Jimmy and Cindy could be dancing in Retroville, and Timmy, Sheen, Libby, they could all be in Dimmsdale at the same exact time, which this is not a solution to me. This is only going to lead to more issues and more fighting. And I like how they always end these specials with the cross-dimensional thing where we get to see both Jimmy and Timmy in their natural habitat interacting with one another. Like, it's very well done.
I'm flat, I'm bouncing, I'm flat, I'm bouncing.
So yeah, overall, this was a really, really good special. I would argue better than the first one. The only question is, will it end on a great final note with the third one? Or is it going to pale in comparison? Spoiler alert, I kind of like the third one the best. I feel like in descending order is the quality of it all. We all are nostalgic for the first one, and it established a lot, but I feel like the next two improved on it all. They took out stories that were a lot more interesting and tailored to their characters. Jimmy and Timmy interact in a way that they never did before. Therefore, I feel like the crossovers weren't even impactful compared to now. But let's dive in.
So, wanna hang out?
Hang out? Are you nuts? Have you gone completely mental? You want to hang out with me, the two of us together?
Maybe.
Okay, sure.
The final Jimmy Timmy Power Hour is kind of unbelievable. The first Jimmy Timmy Power Hour was great because we actually had them meeting. We established both worlds. We got to meet the parents. We got to meet the friends. Jimmy was immersed in Timmy's world and Timmy was immersed in Jimmy's world. They didn't really have a lot of crossover with those characters personally. Then we have the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 2, where we actually add the friends in and we add some enemies that we haven't seen before. Jimmy and Timmy do interact, but they're against each other the entire time, pretty much. This one's really unique because not only is it about them getting along, but it's them fighting on the same side together. And in this special, we get to see everybody in the opposite person's dimension. And you know what? It made me realize how bad Jimmy and Timmy actually are as people. We start with Jimmy making a new portal that kind of allows him to see other universes. And what's the first one he sees? Timmy Turner. Timmy's trying to hang out with his friends, but Chester is busy and so is AJ.
So I'm placing myself in suspended animation until the 24th century, where, if I'm right, mankind will be so far advanced, I'll be welcomed like a long-lost brother.
That's insane!
Of course you'd think that. You're so 21st century.
It's kind of depressing because you realize how little support Timmy has in his life. Like, he has his fairly godparents, sure, but Chester and AJ are not really friends to him, and it seems like it's really hard for him to connect to them. Like, the only people that are in his life are assigned to him. Unlike Jimmy, who his friends are all in on the fact that he's a genius, they go on adventures with him, there's a lot more closeness to their relationships. Therefore, Jimmy is an objectively more selfless person to be able to add other people into his his life like that. Timmy is tired of being neglected, so he's like, okay, I'm gonna go see Cindy. Jimmy's really insecure about this because their relationship isn't fully developed still, and he can't talk to her himself, so he has to stop Timmy. He gets to Retroville really quickly, and the two kind of have a little face-off in the sky as they race to Cindy's house. They quickly learn, though, that she isn't home. Therefore, they have nothing to fight about. They decide to spend some time together. Carl and Sheen know what's about to happen.
Jimmy and Timmy are friends? Do you know what this means? Do you? Do you?
Why are you talking to me like that?
They're about to be neglected. Timmy is already so much closer with Jimmy just because he knows that he has fairies. I love seeing Jimmy interact with the fairies in this too. We don't see them talk in a way that's not arguing ever. Like, this is the first special that I feel like has a lot more breathing room. The two team up to take down Eustace Stritch, which is the snotty rich kid in Jimmy's world. I wish we got to see Remy Buxaplenty too, because obviously if we're dealing with the enemies, he's the rich one on Timmy's side. They're able to defeat him pretty quickly, and almost bored at the fact that they're such a good team together. Like, Jimmy has his science, Timmy has his magic, and it seems like there's no real threat to them. Carl and Sheen are starting to feel bad because Jimmy is actually neglecting them, and they're good friends, so they don't really deserve that, Jimmy. It's cute watching them get along and like praise each other for what they do. Timmy's never had a friend like this at all, ever.
I can't believe you used science to transmute his gasoline into sugar water, deactivate his missiles, and give him chicken pox.
And I can't believe you used Cosmo and Wanda to fill his cockpit with bees, turn his assistant into a pig, and fill his shorts with hot fudge.
I can still feel the burn!
They decide to go back to Dimmsdale and actually create an enemy that is worth fighting. Chester and AJ get jealous because Timmy is spending time without them, which I'm not surprised either. You guys don't treat him right. And AJ thinks he's being sent to the future because in his lab, he literally gets into this freezing chamber. Very Disney style. And this goes on for like the whole episode. He thinks he's like sent to the future, which is so funny because it's like that's how he justifies this entire crossover. So Timmy shows Jimmy what it's like to fight crime in his universe because he actually does it. And it's funny seeing Jimmy not know what to do in Timmy's universe because it's like he's a little bit more dim-witted here, which makes sense for his character. They see the Crimson Chin and the Night Chin, and Jimmy becomes Brain Boy, which is a really boring alter ego. They defeat these enemies too, so these guys are essentially getting really bored. Jimmy and Timmy go into a portal to actually try to make an enemy worth fighting. Chester and AJ watch them go through the portal, so Chester and AJ follow them into the next dimension, which I don't know why they're not so surprised about it. And this is one of the best scenes ever. The friends all meet each other, so Carl and Sheen meet Chester and AJ, and it's so funny that AJ thinks that this is all the future, and that's the reason they're like meeting. They get really jealous that the two are spending time without them. When they're trying to figure out a way to actually get their attention back, Cindy arrives, and they're like, oh, obviously, we'll just get them to fight over Cindy.
Do you know what this means? Do you? Do you?
Seriously? You've got to stop doing that.
And this plot is so obvious. Jimmy and Timmy decide to make the perfect enemy with as many powers as possible for a challenge. I don't know if you know either of these shows, but it's usually about both of their characters getting really into something, getting carried away, and not being able to solve the problem because of a fatal flaw. Yeah, so this time they intentionally seek out that. They're trying to make sure that there is no way that this guy could be defeated. Which, guys, are you serious? Come on. As an audience member, I'm getting a little annoyed.
Why don't you make him adoptable? So someone can give him a nice home when you're done playing with him.
Oh, fine. There, he's adoptable.
Cindy tries to give her attention, but they're more interested in each other this time. Oh, interesting. They go back to Dimmsdale, and this one's jumping back and forth a lot more than usual, which I kind of like the pacing of it. And they bring their biggest enemy to life, and name it Shirley.
Your name is Shirley!
Face the wrath of Shirley!
That is the dumbest name ever!
What? You gave me the dumbest name ever? You tricked me!
They clearly don't see this enemy as anything more than a simulation that will entertain them, but the fact that it has like real emotions and feelings make it a lot more interesting of an enemy. Like, they give it all the evil traits that it could need, but since he doesn't feel like super negatively toward anybody, he doesn't have an urge to act evil.
We must have been so busy giving him weapons and powers that we forgot to make him really evil.
So Jimmy and Timmy actually get annoyed that he's not evil enough, which, guys, what do you want from life? Like, this is ridiculous. ridiculous. They're enablers to each other. The friends team up and head back to Dimmsdale, and this is a really good B-plot. Like, I like that it's tying into what Jimmy and Timmy are doing, as opposed to like the first one, which didn't even have a B-plot at all. And I don't think the second one did either. Once Shirley realizes that he's being neglected by Jimmy and Timmy and they don't care about him outside of just playing around with him, he actually does start to become evil.
I'm the villain, sworn enemy of Timmy and Jimmy. They're meeting me here in an hour.
Ha! Fat chance! It's only a matter of time before Neutron and Turner toss you aside like they did us.
Which is really sad that they had to have a real experience with this guy neglecting him to a point where he actually wants to harm them to do evil things. These guys are terrible. So yeah, he starts attacking them and they start to think it's really cool. And I'm like, guys, he's talking about how you neglected them as his parents and creators. And they're just like, whoa, this guy's awesome. They're like bullying him at this point. So he goes full force to turn on them and they become superheroes themselves. He says he wants to take away the things that make them special, like taking away Jimmy's genius, which is kind of a dark revenge plot, but I mean, I think he's owed this at this point. And they start to genuinely worry that this guy could be a threat, which took forever. The guy takes his genius and is super smart now.
Logic ebbing away. Sudden urge to make clamshell art.
It reminds me of that episode where he made himself like really loopy and silly, which is such a classic episode, and I like that we kind of get a little reference to that here. So Timmy is the only one that's smart enough to know what's really going on, and Jimmy is just no help, which I would be concerned because Timmy is not a reliable person. He tries to warn their friends that he needs their help, but they already hate him because they ditched him. Jimmy and Timmy are just so neglectful in this episode and are surprised when people don't want to just deal with it. Shirley went away to Retroville, and he looks a little bit more unnatural in the Retroville universe. Like, I feel like they should have just made him a little bit darker in terms of the blue. Like, there's something disorienting about seeing him walking around the streets. He starts to destroy Retroville, which is really concerning, and capture Cosmo and Wanda. But it looks like there's a lot at stake as he literally has a gaping hole take over both of their realities. I don't love the animation for this giant void, but he takes aspects of different universes and throws it all into this empty white void. And it's more on the verge of Timmy's animation, I would say.
Hey, look, honey, I've lost weight.
Because apparently Shirley is trying to recreate the entire universe to be his own. And we finally get to see all of Retroville in Timmy's universe, which is so cool. Like, seeing Hugh and Judy did not need to happen, but it's so funny. Hugh keeps his humor, and I love that. And they even meet Timmy's parents. Like, this crossover just has everything that we've always wanted before and just throws it all together. So Jimmy and Timmy really can't defeat this guy, with Jimmy not being smart and Timmy not having Cosmo and Wanda, and all their friends essentially not liking them anymore. They get stuck to a fridge like refrigerator magnets. The friends actually befriend Shirley and don't treat him like a jerk, so he doesn't hurt them, which is funny because it's like this enemy is actually a pretty good person. He's just being neglected by so many people at once.
You guys have about 2 days to live. Enjoy yourselves. Have a blast. Oh, and here's a portal in case you want to save yourselves and hang with me.
And it's so funny, he's playing solitaire with the characters and knocks them over like dominoes. So it's up to the friends to be able to distract Shirley for long enough that they could capture him with a butterfly net to stop the fairy ability. All the friends get to come through for Timmy and Jimmy, and they get their powers back, both Cosmo and Wanda and Jimmy's smarts, and are able to defeat him a lot easier. But I'm not really sure who the hero is here. Like, I feel like Jimmy and Timmy are so disrespectful, they must be villains in this scenario. Like, this poor guy is just trying to make his way in the world, and he just wants the approval of his two fathers, but they're from different universes. The ending feels a lot more Timmy Turner than Jimmy Neutron, with just a really short tag of everybody celebrating after they had won the situation, and it feels like they're about to be like in each other's world a lot more often, which would make such an interesting show, with Shirley starting his own pizza place.
No! Get out! I love those crazy kids!
This is considered one of the last productions of Jimmy Neutron in general, which is really sad. Like, I hate that this is the way they had to go under the shadow of Timmy Turner, but all around, like, the emotional arcs of this episode with not only the friends, but Jimmy and Timmy's relationship to this giant enemy that they want to create is just such a good premise, and it reflects both shows, like something that would be done on both shows, but they managed to have each other be a part of it, losing their fairies and neglecting everybody in their lives. Like, it's them head on facing all of their issues with the help of each other, which makes it a lot more wholesome. I like seeing Jimmy and Timmy have a lot of stakes in their own universes, and this special just throws in everything we've never seen before in a way that is just unforgettable to me. I can't believe how much flack I'm gonna get for saying the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 3 is one of the best, but it's just so good. Like, the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 2 was definitely better than 1. Like, it gave us a lot more conflict, introduced a lot more characters, but this is them throwing everything at the wall. And I feel like in a universe where this was the only Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, that might not have even been as strong. Like, I think the trilogy working as an entire one crossover is what makes it so good. Like, we keep thinking the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, the first one, is the best, but we forget that all of them kind of have a little bit of zest to them. I wish they released all of them together, back to back, kind of like they did with Wishology, which was not as good. That special from Fairly Odd Parents, where it was like a 3-hour movie, like 3 specials back to back. One, I don't know how they did that, but it would have been a lot cooler in this context. Overall, this is like one of the best series I've ever seen. Like, being such a limited time TV event makes it super special. That's what it is. It is the best special I've ever seen. We've had some really good episodes that are 2-parters, 3-parters even, for both shows, like Channel Chasers or Jet Fusion, even Win Lose Kaboom on Jimmy's side and Catastrophe on Timmy's side, but this is really unique and special. And even though they split the attention between Jimmy and Timmy, I feel like there was just enough time for everybody. It feels like you're really watching both shows, and things that are really important are happening in both of them because of each other.
You can trust a fudge head!
But what do you guys think? Is the second one your favorite? Do you like Jorgen and Professor Calamitus's combination? Or maybe you like the first one with Goddard and Mr. Crocker taking the forefront of the entire special? For me personally, I'm liking the Jerkinator. I like that Timmy and Jimmy get to create something together, and with the best friends not being on their side the whole time, it adds like an emotional layer that I really like. Thank you guys so much for watching my retrospective breaking down all these 3 specials. Like, I was saving this particular crossover for something as long as this because I really wanted to dive into it. Like, this had such a cultural impact on everybody around me and me. Like, when I used to go to middle school, I remember us all talking about the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour and how cool it was that they managed to take both of our worlds and collide them. And now as an adult, the magic has not gone away. Like, it is such superior storytelling. It's better than everything after it in the Fairly Odd Parents series. So I'm happy I got the time to actually tell you guys all my thoughts on this. Appreciate you guys listening, and until next time, everybody, I'm Johnny 2000, and have a great day.